thank you all for being here. We are not going to do a formal launch, just the fact that Jerry is with us. The book is available in all bookstores and at airport bookstores, which I just saw yesterday to my great thrill. Yeah, and so please, if we've run out of copies or if you've not got a chance to share it with a friend, please do go out and buy a copy. It's a wonderful story of growing up, memory, nostalgia, lots of things that we'll talk about this evening. But more than anything else, I just want to say a very big thank you to Jerry for having taken time to come here this morning.
Don't be silly, you paid my ticket, you put me in a nice hotel. What is to thank?
Your time, which is very precious. So this morning he was with a bunch of 100+ young ladies at a college, and it was like a one-man monologue, stand-up performance, literary review, what is poetry, what one should do in a democracy. So actually there is really no need for me. I just have to nudge words and then you all will have a full performance. That itself is deeply enriching, even though he's a serious writer, poet, journalist, translator, etc. etc. So I'll start with the first one. What was the genesis of this book, The Education of Yuri?
Okay, I think larger, like big picture thing is that I just love writing. Okay, I know it is fashionable to say that writing is very painful and that it is problematic and all, and it is. At one level it is. Okay, I'll tell you the painful part and the beautiful part. The beautiful part is just inventing. Okay, when you're writing a word, and when people say, what do I write about, I always just say, start with the. Okay, the is such a lovely word. The just invites something to join it, right? And once you put down the, you have to follow it with an adjective. So the madman, the beautiful, and then you get a noun, and you're off. Okay. If that doesn't work because you're young and you're sort of slightly involved with yourself, even better. I is such a liberation. After I has been written, your antar akash can be exposed to the world. Now the good thing about writing also is that if you go too far and the antar akash's revelations become too big, you can tear up the paper and throw it away. You can't do that if you've done it on social media. It's on someone's cache somewhere, even if you delete it very soon afterwards. So writing for me has all. I started my first diaries when I was 8 years old. So the diary was a very stupid thing. I still have them. Met Umesh. He and I walked around the school. He is a stupid fellow. All the things that you want to say I put down, but I wrote that diary endlessly and painfully without ever thinking once I want to be a writer. Because in my family, they asked you if you got anything over like 90%, they only asked you one question: medicine or engineering? And I was a very literal child. I thought like this is actually the only thing on the buffet. There's no other plates on the buffet. There's only medicine or engineering. I didn't want to do engineering, so I said medicine. I had no desire to help sick people. I just said if these are two choices, then I'll take this choice. And I lumped along like that and went to college and started doing science and realized that no one was interested in anything I thought. Anything. In science in India, you do experiments, but you have an answer that you already know. Like you have to go and find out that the refractive index of water is 1.33. If you come and tell your teacher it's 1.34, she says go do it again and get the answer correct and come back. Then you go and you change 4 into 3, you bring it back and she signs and says go, very clever boy. Actually, and on the other side of the table there was the arts guys who were standing up in class and saying, I don't think caste is the problem in India, I think it is. They were thinking. I wanted to think. I wanted to think with my teachers. I wanted to explore this stuff. And after the 12th standard, when I got I got okay miserable marks. Okay miserable marks means I got 89%. And everyone said, poor chap, you better get re-evaluation. I said, no, I am going to do arts. And I went to arts And it was like someone had pulled a plug out of my mouth. I haven't stopped talking since then. I just talked and talked and talked and talked. And teachers would say, "Can I have a word in, Mr. Pinto?" And I'd say, "After I finish this, if you don't mind." I just so loved the sound of my own voice. Typical male, yeah. What can you do? So, and then I think somewhere along the way, a friend of mine who was in college with me, she said, "Jerry, I think you should be a writer." And I thought, it's like if someone said, "I think you should be a sex god." Like that delightful thrill that you feel, I felt that. But immediately I thought, I don't know if I can. I thought writers had to be Graham Greene, they had to be white men, or they had to be like, they had to live different lives, not my Mahim life. I mean, I didn't think that was like part of this world of writing. So I kept not doing it, and then one day she said, Jerry, if you don't start writing, I won't talk to you about writing ever again. I'll talk to you because you're my friend, but I won't mention writing. I got really frightened because that was one person who believed I could write. So I said, "Okay, I'll write then, but I can't type myself, which is weak." She said, "I'll type for you." I said, finally we came to the point. I said, "I have an ego." Okay, by this time I was a mathematics teacher of repute. Okay, I was teaching mathematics to young children across the city and making plenty money. I was called Duffer, sir. Because in Bombay, in the 10th standard, the mathematics tutors will not tutor you unless you get 89%. If you have 89%, why do you need a tutor? No one knew. But we will get you to 98%. That was the promise. But what about the child who got 40%? Jerry Pinto saw that market and he taught those children. So I was making lots of money. Shitloads of money. Okay? So I didn't want to risk my ego by being rejected and all. I had heard about rejection slips. And I didn't want things like that. I was the teacher who came in and someone said chai pani and someone said chai and some, Ba came. I mean, many of them were Gujaratis. So Ba came and smiled at me and patted me on the shoulder and said, "He got 40 marks this last time, now he got 36. Whatever you're doing, please stop. Please do something else." And I would tell Ba, "You don't worry. I'll handle him when he's in the 10th standard, he'll get through the exam." And they all got through. Okay? So I was in good shape. But she took those pieces that I did and she went and gave them to various papers. And I saw my name in the papers. I thought I would like explode with happiness. I thought they'd have to scrape me off the walls and put me together because I was so delighted that I was a writer. So really, really Ranveer, like even today when I pass a shop and I see Jerry Pinto's name on a book, I get a little thrill. Quick! See, I did it. So I'm not going to stop writing. I write all the time. I write obsessively. I write on days when I have to travel. I get up at 4 in the morning and I write. When I'm traveling, I write. If I'm not writing, I'm reading, and then sometimes I'm teaching poor hapless students. I do all kinds of other things because writing doesn't make so much money, as you all probably know. But as I said to the students today, it gives you certainly enough to live on, but certainly not a lifestyle. Okay? So this kurta, for instance, okay, is an old kurta, which I got turned over. See, this is the right side of the kurta. I got bored of it, so I turned it over, and that looks like a much more interesting kurta. You do fun stuff like that, and you keep going, and you do what you love. Okay? I get up every morning with the lovely feeling that I get to invent a world today. I get to do stuff with language. I get to translate and I get to rub Marathi over my face and I get to smear my body with Hindi and I can read Urdu today and just like enjoy its language. I can stand in the middle of the room and shout poetry out. I get to do all this. Why wouldn't I write? Why would I not? I want to do a desk job and earn like zillions of rupees. I'm having fun. Fun is so much better than zillions of rupees. Zillions of rupees, they take away your life, yeah. And then when you're old and grey and full of sleep, then they say, now go have fun. You say, I've got to have fun. I got bypassed because you gave me so much stress and in my job and whatnot, and I can't do anything. So,
that answers my question.
And the short answer is?
the short answer is I was walking past my college, right? One day. Finally, I'm coming to my... And my college has a very sweet little roundel on it. And there is a Parsi gentleman who gave the money for the college. And I imagined him looking at me and thinking, what is this all going on? We had such a lovely city and what shambles you have made of it. And I felt such a warmth for that time. Such a warmth for the time when, you spent your life in terror. You will never understand the terror that we had. No young Indian can understand. Oh, maybe you can, but it's a different source of terror. Shit, what am I saying? I'm so sorry, guys. And I'm so sorry about the world we left you. We meant to do better, yeah, and we just screwed it up entirely. Okay, so on behalf of your parents, on behalf of me, I'm really sorry. We should have done much better to strengthen stuff for you and to give you a good world. But you're strong and you're brave and you'll change it. Okay? And you'll change it by one act of love at a time. Especially for that one person whom you don't like. Seriously, the way to beat communalism, the way to beat all the things that we are worried about today, is to be gentle and to be kind to the person you don't like. Just a little act of gentleness. Try it. Let's see.
That deserves an answer. That's deep. But clearly, the book, for those of you who've read blurbs or have an idea about, is about the education of Yuri. Starts when he's 15 years old, finishes school and gets into college, makes friends and the things he discovers along his college life, and ends 5 years later with the end of his college. So a lot of what you just said now and a lot of what is in the book kind of is fact and fiction. Part of your life, you went to Elphinstone, some of the characters, and in your earlier book, Helen and the Big Hoom also, there was part of fiction and reality. So how do you as a writer use that material from reality, from your past, and yet camouflage it, paint it, color it, for it to become fiction?
Okay, I think if you actually put a live person in a book, if I decided, Ranveer is a fascinating guy. I'm always, every time I meet him, he looks the same, like a little elf who has popped out of some, out of some fairy tale, and he's practically for the last 20 years unchanged. And there's always very nice shirts, and I always say, where can I buy cloth like that? And he says, I'll buy it for you, don't worry, so that I will wear this and he will wear that. This is standard. But okay, tomorrow if I decided to put Ranveer into a book, he would squash all the oxygen out of a book, okay, out of a novel. Out of an autobiography, it would be great, okay, because this happened. But when you are writing a book, a novel, you have to take the really odd scraps of life, and you have to try. It's literally like you've been given, your life is like this pile of rags, okay? Many pretty patches, lots of big patches of ugly material, okay? Your grandmother's dress, someone's chutney, everything is in there, right? Lots of stuff. And someone says, here, take this and make a quilt. Now the skill is not in the material. The skill is in the quilt making. So you take that stuff, whatever is your life, and you look at it, and some of the things that have deeply moved you simply don't fit. They don't fit, and then you must remove them. So my solution to this problem is you can tell I'm a person of excess. Okay, so my solution is write 300,000 words. You don't stop writing a novel until it's about 300 to 400,000 words. That's about the size of Anna Karenina plus War and Peace. Okay. Now in this slag heap of words, okay, everything that you wanted to say about everything, you start reading. And you start reading and then you start weeping. because you're just like, it's so bad. It's such a mess. Like, this is not a novel. This is you talking to yourself, you idiot. Why don't you just choose to write properly, structured things? But that is my system now. So then I go through this mournful period and then I start cutting and cutting and cutting. Then it comes down to about 200,000 words and I call up my editor and I say, I can't do any more. It's 200,000 words. Let's divide it into two and we publish it as 2 volumes. And he says, yes, you should do that. So then I think, see how sweet I am, right? Trust me. I go to sleep. I get up in the morning around 4 o'clock. Christian guilt has woken in me. And I'm thinking, I can't do this to Ravi. I feel I must toilet train my child before I send him out into the world, right? So if you have to do that, then you have to again edit until it is down to something reasonable. Then it begins to acquire the shape of a book. Then you hand it over to the editor. So for me, it is just like a big scooping action, right? And okay, you want to be said, okay, that also is there. Put it down. Oh, I had this, I remember in Elphinstone, part of this growing up thing is about acquiring some pretense of sophistication, which we all do in college. Like, you have to pretend to be sophisticated. No one is. But everyone is pretending differently and some are pretending better, so you have to try and pretend. So one day I walk into college and Thuch is having a hug-in. So I said, what is a hug-in? No, Thuch, this is a young man, who was part of our group. His uncle had died and his mother said, now you have to do mundan. So he said, why should I do mundan for my uncle? She said, because he's your father. And that was the moment when it was revealed that his actual father had had mumps as a child and had not been able to impregnate his mother. And so he had called upon his brother and said, please impregnate my wife. Because at least then it's in the same gene pool, right? And so when his uncle died, she said, that was your real father, now you'll have to do mundan. So he did mundan and he came to college and he told us this story, which was kind of shattering for everybody. And then there was a lovely young woman, her name was, never mind her name, she was wonderful. She was like an encyclopedia of the curious, because she would come in clothes, she came in camouflage, but she stuck leaves and twigs in her hair, because she was properly camouflaged and she put green paint on her face. It was lovely. So she said we must hug him for 48 hours, non-stop. So we had to, everyone alternatively had to hold Thuch and pat him and say there. And Thuch was much more comfortable, it seemed, when the women were patting him and saying there. Then when I took my turn to say there, thinking, what is this rubbish going on? Did I come to college to pat this idiot who is now ready to smell of 16 different perfumes, all of them cheap? Because when we were in college, we either smelled of sweat or we smelled of cheap perfume. That time there was no alternative. And in Bombay you could buy perfume by the squirt. Seriously, there are people who will sell you perfume just before your hot date. So you go and you say, and you put up down, and the other side, denim, and you go smelling of brut and denim. It is cheap perfume, so it never lasts. About 5 minutes later, the smell is gone. But you feel psychologically, at least I am smelling of brut, she will like me. That kind of stuff I thought. So all this was in the original drafts. Okay, like big chunks and sections which I thought were so funny and so witty and so sweet. And kachak, they have to be cut out because life is too large, too voluminous, too various, too numinous for language. Not just for a novel, for the whole of language. Your feeling on being dumped by someone you love is not replicable in language. When you try to say, I'm feeling so, you can't get the word because the word has not been invented. And the word cannot be invented because of your intense, beautiful, unique specificity. And that unique specificity has fed into your feeling of being dumped. So you can't expect, in moments of deep, deep emotion, we abandon language. that pain comes out as a scream. And love becomes like something that you can only express through the body, through touch, through dance, through anything but language. Right? Language is small compared to how large each individual one of us is. So, in the act of writing, you throw out a huge net across experience and you draw in what that net will allow you to capture. And that's what you pin to the page. Now you can clap hands properly. Must tell us. Or really clapping.
So clearly the book has, as you mentioned now, lots of coming of age issues. And from the sense I got of it, and what you just said about, without giving away the story, I mean, the mix is largely in the ratio of love, sex, friendship, the blurring lines, the boundaries. Can you share some more about that and the process of the book and memory or whatever?
You know, I think what really messed me up was that, and especially I think it also messes poor Yuri up, is that you're supposed to feel friendship at a certain level. It's supposed to be like that. And love is supposed to be like that. And often friendship is like that. And so deep and so intense that you're thinking, is this love? And then you're terrified because that other person is your friend and may not feel as intensely as you and may be frightened by this, may be pushed away by this, may reject you because of this. So it becomes a balance, and you're 15, you're dealing with life issues, yeah? You're dealing with like, what do you want to be for the rest of your life? Will you ever get a job? Are my underarms smelling today? Do I have the right underwear on? Does she like me? Does he like me? Should I have ragda for lunch or just a vada pav? Should I buy quinoa, akabe or Gerald Darrell? You just like, everything seems to be like a question. And then there are these life-shattering questions of, my friend didn't smile when I walked into the room. And now looking back on it, you think, come on, really? But okay, there is some part of me that is still very easily hurt. Okay, I mean, I've learned, of course, to pretend, and I've learned, of course, to like cover it all up, and I've learned to just be, like blasé, because people don't want one radu, person in the room. So I pretend, but I'm very easily hurt, and that very easily hurt person can only use for that very easily hurt person is to write books. The only time that idiot has any value in the world. Otherwise, there will be a review, and 99% of it is beautiful. And they say, oh, wonderful, oh, lovely. And then there's one word, repetitive. And you're thinking, repetitive? What is repetitive? Bring the book, let me see if it is repetitive. Where is it repetitive? I have to check whether it's repetitive. You sit up all night and then you think, I'm telling the people, but she just wrote repetitive, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. But it doesn't work that way. This is too much information. Okay, what can I say? I try to answer questions honestly, and then I'm thinking these people are going to write prescriptions for Valium and hand it over. So do you want some mood controllers? Okay, writing is my way in which I deal with hurt. With old hurt, with new hurt, and therefore my writing when it first comes out is tedious, it is boring, it is rubbishy, it has all the intensity of a little boy's diary. Then comes the tough part, which is editing it and making it into something that you would be proud of. So the work is not in the writing. The writing, as I told you, I love doing. The work is in the editing. When you actually sit down to say there is a reader out there, now it doesn't matter whether you were hurt or you were not hurt. Now you have to communicate this story. Now this has to be like, you're asking, the act of writing a book is the biggest ask you can make, which is to say to someone, give me some part of your life. Take away some of your time and devote it to my words. Right? It's a big ask. So you should never let a book out that you can't say has some reason to be there, and that if you read it, there'll be some value in your life. And that is why we edit and edit and edit and edit and think and rethink and carefully measure each thing. Measure, titrate each emotion. I want to say I'm hurt and I'm crying, and you say a stab of pain. And then you want the reader to come in and say, I felt that stab of pain. I know what that's like. I'm with you, Jerry, on this. You said what I thought. That's your success. That's when, so that editing, that constant cutting out, that revisiting, that reworking, remaking, that is where the writing is, not in the act of writing. The act of writing is just like this. You're listening, you're watching, I'm making abhinaya, I'm doing mudras, I'm doing all this, and therefore this whole thing becomes something that you're interested in now. If you read the same thing written down, you think, get on with it. Yeah? So that's the editing process.
So, besides the whole topic of friendship, love, mixture, all of that, there's also this running thread of politics. And in the book, it's the Naxalite movement in the late 70s, early 80s. Different generations, a lot of young people here, some of us who are not so young, went through different kinds of things when we were in college, but it was also very sort of cool to be politically aligned, Now I think the phrase is to be woke, and there are different divisions of that, which I'm not very familiar with. But how much was that as important as the studying or hanging out with the friends? And how much does it shape the later adult? For you?
Yeah. I think, in most cases, you go into college, or at least our generation went into college feeling that the world was clay and that we were going to mold it and shape the world together. This was what we meant to do. So we walked into college with this, at least not into science. In science, you walked into science with, IIT, MBBS, and then you ended up BSc, whatever. But that was a different bunch. When in arts, each discussion, at some point someone would be talking about Byronic metaphors, and eventually Byronic metaphors would end up with discussing poverty in rural Maharashtra. And the teacher would say, and someone would be saying, I have gone to rural Maharashtra and I have seen how we went from Byron to rural Maharashtra, no one could tell. And the teachers themselves, just eventually gave up and said, what can you do? They just take over. And we were a very buddy class. Our class was full of me's. I had to fight for my space and time to talk. There was everyone talking. And then there were the mumblers. There was a young woman who sat at the back and so finally I had to say, okay, what are you saying? And then she would say, but you don't give me a chance to speak. And we say, okay, give me a chance to speak. No. So but there was such a deep belief that if you went out there and you put yourself into play, that if you did this, you could change stuff. And every year I learned one lesson about how this was false. Okay, so one of the passages that got cut out was my experience